Hi, this is Leo. In this tutorial we're going to take a look at the function of cells in a worksheet, what cell addresses mean, and what types of information can be stored in a cell. To get started, let's take a look at the spreadsheet in front of you. At the present moment it is completely empty, and what we can see that it consists of columns, each with its own label, and rows, each with their own label as well. And we can also see faint lines that mark the boundaries of the columns and faint lines that mark the boundaries of the rows. And this grid-like pattern gives rise to cells. So right here we have a cell which I've just clicked on, and this cell has an address. Each cell in the spreadsheet has an address, and the address of this particular cell is cell D2 because it is column D and row 2. If I click over here, this cell's address is E6. So every cell in a worksheet has its own address, and this is also important to know. You also need to know that each cell can store information, and there are only 3 different types of information that can be stored. There is essentially numbers. Numbers can be stored. We can store labels. And we can store formulae. Now, take a look at that formula. A formula here always starts with an equal sign, and this formula says the contents of this cell here, which is cell F7, F7 equals the contents of D7 multiplied by the contents of E7. And if I hit enter, we can see the answer. If I now change that information in cell D7, let's change it to 20 and hit enter, we can see that there's a simultaneous change in this cell here. Now, if you're new to Excel, you may be wondering, how do I use this grid-like structure and where do I start? Well, one key message I'd like to give you is that you can start on a worksheet anywhere. Let's use as an example a list of bills that you have to pay. Now, generally when I make a start on a spreadsheet, I avoid using the top left-hand corner. So I'm going to start somewhere around about here, and with my first label, bills to pay. Okay, so what's the first one to mind? Well, let's think of electricity. Let's think of rates, internet, car service, and insurance. Okay, so I'm going to widen the column a little bit, and I'm going to type in the amounts. $350, $300, $60, $250, and $600. Okay, so I've made a rudimentary list, and when I say you can start anywhere, basically it doesn't matter where you start, because at any time in the future you can move the location of your list. You can delete columns and you can delete rows. You can put in more rows and put in more columns. So therefore, when you start a new spreadsheet, don't worry about the formatting, worry about getting the information content down in your spreadsheet in an organized way. Now subsequently, I might want to put in some more information. Let's say that I want to put in some pay by dates or due dates. So let's say that I've got the 3rd of March. Let's say I've got the 15th of March. Rates, internet will say the 28th of February. Let's say the car service has to be done by the 20th of March. And the insurance has to be paid by the 1st of April. So I put in some extra information there. I didn't think about that at first, but it can easily be added later. So whenever you're beginning to do a spreadsheet, avoid worrying about how it's going to look, avoid worrying about its position, avoid worrying about exactness in terms of what detail is going to go here or there, because at some stage you can add and subtract whatever you wish. I'm now going to add a total and work out when that's going to be. And these dates are not all in the right order, so what I'm going to do is to order that by due dates. Okay, so probably by now you're getting the picture that you start somewhere, anywhere, and if you think you want to add, you can. If you want to move something, you can. Don't be frightened about where you start on your spreadsheet. Well, that's it for this tutorial on working with cells. Thanks very much for joining me.